There's been a lot coming up in the last couple days around people saying and feeling like they've been attacked or feeling like they've had negative dreams or negative energy around them. I've put out a free course because usually I get messages, Natalie, you need to slow down, Natalie, you need to relax, rest, get some sleep. But the message I was getting was, don't sleep, keep going, put out this, you have to put this course out. So I put the course out. The link is in my bio in the link tree. It's pretty simple to remember. It's natalienadine.com/free course. And it is all about the timeline, why we no longer need the support and assistance of Michael, and how we use the archangels, the 2.0 level archangels. Basically, we've ascended as Gaia has ascended, and we've all shifted happily now. We've moved to a place where we're now able to access and see um, see more. We're just almost like back in the Egyptian times. We couldn't see certain things because you had to ascend to a certain level. Well, we've ascended to a certain level, and we can now see Archangels 2.0. And so those are the fractals or the fragments of two. So an archaea and an archangel come together to make a new being, and those new beings are those archangels 2.0. And then I discovered there's a whole family tree out there of all the lineage of the archangels. So that was kind of cool as well to discover today. And so that is kind of in my course as well, along with why we're going through lessons of discernment, why we're getting individuals around us that are not really acting like themselves. They're like, that person's usually a little bit more calmer and level-headed than that, and can take feedback a little bit better than that. But yeah, right now people are tending to be a little bit on edge. They're tending to be a little bit snippy and acting a little bit out of character. And so what I've been doing is just connecting them to light. It's super easy to do. Is just, okay, put them in a bubble and put some light on them, and it usually changes how they interact with me. I used to just put me in a bubble, but my bubble is pretty standard for me to just be in a bubble of light. So now I'm realizing it's other people around me that are being influenced by other things. And it's not because they're bad or because they're not shielding and protecting properly. It's because where we're shifting to, we have to learn certain lessons. And in order to learn those lessons, we have to undergo certain things. And in order to undergo certain things, we become triggered to bring those things to our awareness, to bring them to the surface so we can address them. So it makes it, I mean, how else would I know that something was there for me to examine and explore if I didn't get triggered and bring it to the surface? So we're finding that is happening a lot right now. Right now, there are many individuals that, oh, it happened to me in the middle of the night. So I'm sleeping. I wake up, roll over. Oh, I'm like, oh, let me just check my phone. So I check my phone. There's a voice clip. I listen to the voice clip. My partner beside me was sleeping. He rolls over. He wakes up. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm listening to my voice clip. And he is like, pissed. I'm like, what's their deal? Go back to bed. Now, he was mad. I'm like, this is not, something's not right. He's completely out of character right now. And yep, sure enough, when I check, he is not connected to the light. I'm like, as soon as you notice somebody is acting out of character, you can pull up their light body, and 9 times out of 10, they're not connected to the light. They're not themselves. People cannot function as themselves if they are not connected to the light. And so, my husband was so pissed off, he didn't even come back to bed. He got out of bed and like left the room and didn't come back. It was like 3 in the morning. And I was like, are you for real? Like, this has never happened in 15 years. Like, me listening to a voice message is not outside of normal. Like, I'm awake all different times at night. So it was so crazy for me to be like, what is wrong with this guy? So in the morning now, I wake up and I was like, I already did the work. I already put him in the bubble, lit him up, cleared whatever I needed to clear, went through the steps that are in my course. I'm like, okay, good, we're good. I like get out of the bedroom, I go, I say good morning. I'm like, just act like normal, like nothing's happened. And he is like, you know, I wanted to say that I don't think it was you in the middle of the night. I think it was actually a me thing. I was like, oh yeah? Yeah, as in like this is new news to me. I'm trying to act like this is new. Oh yeah? What makes you think that, dear? And he's like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. What you're saying, it doesn't make a lot of sense. He's like, when I looked at it, I could see that he was actually programmed. So every time I lifted up my phone and looked at my phone, in his head, he heard a narrative that had been programmed by somebody. I don't even know who, but it wasn't his programming. It came from somewhere that disconnected him from the light. And it made him believe that every time I looked at my phone, the message he heard was, she doesn't care about you. You're secondary. She's got something else that she's feeling is more important than you. And he wasn't concerned that I was cheating. He was more concerned about like, your family's always second, was his narrative. And so yeah, it's kind of interesting that um, that kind of thing is something that is happening right now. That the disconnecting to the light and different narratives that are playing in people's programming and being played in people's brains, and it's like they don't act like themselves. So once I pointed out to him, like, what do you mean you believe that you're secondary? Like, this is what I did yesterday, this is how I like gave him all the examples, and he was like, hmm. He shook his head and he was sort of like, what? Like, the things that you're saying don't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's not because I don't believe you, it's because there's actually something wrong with me. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, uh huh, okay. And then I didn't say anything. I didn't tell him about the work I did. I didn't do anything. And that is the second part of the lesson. And probably one of the reasons why they had me come on was people are learning lessons right now, and it's not for us to point those lessons out to them. I could have told my husband, like, yeah, you woke up in the middle of the night and you were a jerk to me and I lost sleep because of it. Like, I could have gone down that, but these are his lessons to learn. And so, Source is having me just hold space and just provide um, light and space for people, because Source is sort of like, Source herself is wanting to deliver lessons, and people are being triggered so those lessons can be delivered and so that she can shine light. And our job is to hold space and shine light, not to tell them what their lesson is that they need to go pick up and learn. She's going to deliver those lessons. But it is hard for us when we can see things that might be helpful to people, and we want to point them out because we want to be helpful. But it's for us to sit quietly and hold that space for them, because it's all in divine timing. And the second part is, we want to defend ourselves, to not be like a pushover or come across as a pushover. We want to be able to say, no, it wasn't me, and you need to apologize. You were out of line. It's whatever. Like, I'm over it. We're just gonna move on. I'm gonna hold light and love for you. It's done. And we just moved on. It wasn't a thing at all. But that takes some time and practice. So yeah, we're all going to be going through some of that stuff. Some of the attacks are not necessarily attacks, and I wanted to break down some of the stigma around some of that as well, because oftentimes people don't talk about the attacks that are happening because they think, well, people are going to just think that my frequency or my vibration wasn't high enough, and that's why I was getting attacked. Or they might think I haven't dealt with my karmic ties, and that's why I'm getting attacked. Or they might think I'm just new at this, and well, that's probably why you're getting attacked. So there's all these like reasons why people don't necessarily speak out about it, because they think those things that I just mentioned. And in reality, it's supposed to be spoken about. The other thing that people believe is, if they speak about negative things, or things that have happened to them that aren't positive, then they're going to manifest and call in more of that, which also is another piece that is inaccurate. There are times where you should not be speaking and reminiscing and staying in that space, but for the most part, when something is happening to you, you should be able to address it and you should be able to speak about it. And it's the not speaking about it that causes people to not understand what to do when it's happening to them because nobody's spoken about it. It's so silly. So yes, I have those times where I am like, I cannot get lit right now and stay connected to light. And it is some of the times it's because something is happening to Gaia on her auric field. What I was able to see 2 nights ago, so it wasn't last night, it was the night before, all that day leading up to the night, I hadn't been able to get clear. I had been about 80% clear, but I wasn't able to fully cleanse and clear and be lit. And I have a quantum mat. I've been using the mat, doing all the things that I know usually work. And then by morning, I went through the night, and by morning, I still woke up and I was like, I am still not clear, guys. You said if I rested, you thought I was maybe just tired. If I rested, I would be clear. And I'm waking up and I am not clear. And I had a good rest. So what's the deal? And so two of my guides stood back over in my corner, over my shoulder, and they were consulting. And I was like, this is weird. I've stumped my guides on how to get me clear. Like usually somebody knows something and they can give me a strategy and it's good. But like two guides standing together consulting, this is odd. And what they finally concluded was that Gaia's auric field had been weakened, and it had been weakened by it looked like a machine. It was something that was done artificially to make her auric field weak. And when that defense system lowered, we were more susceptible to being disconnected to light or in having things come through. So some people would say that they had dreams that were not very good during that nighttime. Other people were saying that they used the strategies in my course and they looked afterwards at their light body once they had cleansed themselves and it looked like Swiss cheese. It was full of holes. Other people were saying that they were able to get one of the strategies is put yourself in salt water and shake it around, like almost like rinsing rice. So other people were saying that they used the rinsing rice method and there was so much stuff that they had pulled out. So there is a necessary need for cleansing and clearing right now, and people don't always know how to do that because it's taboo almost to talk about what dark things or bad things, or if you were getting attacked, that people don't know how to go through those strategies and those steps. And I only know how to do it because I had to go through it. Like I had to have those attacks, but I also don't talk about those attacks because there's so many other things to talk about. But at this point in time, they're telling me these are important things that we need to be talking about, is not just what the attack looked like, but how to cleanse ourselves and connect ourselves back to light, especially the people around us, because some of the attacks are not direct at us. They're coming through other people that we're connected with. They're coming through in the forms of like co-workers acting out of character. If you're sitting there minding your own business, having a great time, and a co-worker walks in and they say and do these things and they trigger you, you're like, why are they acting so out of character? That it was a purposeful thing. It was like a setup. It was something that came through that worker to bring about those triggers, to bring it to light for you. So it won't feel good at the time, but afterwards, when you go back and reflect and go through the steps, you'll be able to see like, oh, right, they were acting out of character. That's not even logical. So when you're like, you'll leave the situation, you'll walk away and you'll be like, what the heck is she talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. You will then remember this live and you'll be like, Natalie told me that this would happen, that there will be some kind of coworker or some kind of somebody where you'll walk away or go to your car and you'll be like, what the heck? This doesn't even make any sense. That's not even logical. And so those are the things I'm talking about where it doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. You just can't even understand how they're putting two and two together. They're disconnected from light and their trigger is coming through you so that you can examine it, resolve it, shield, protect, cleanse, do all the things that you need to do. There's a Archangel 2.0, Gloria. She's really good at being able to, once you've fully cleansed, put a seal on you so that that kind of stuff doesn't continue to keep happening, so that you stay cleansed. The other cool trick that I use that is so important, and I think I forgot to put this in the course, but it's a reset. So have you ever played a video game and you get so far on the level and then you like have to get, you know, basically past the midway point in that level, and you like, I think Mario used to have it when we were kids. We would get to a certain place in that level and you would be able to ding a flag, and then if you died, you'd be able to go back to that flag point instead of start at the like very beginning again. Anyways, the same thing is true for when we cleanse. You cleanse, you do all the strategies, you put your seal on, and like 3 days later, somebody crazy comes up, and you're like, this is one of those people that Natalie told me about. They're acting crazy, they're out of character. I better go in and cleanse and shield again. But instead of starting right at the beginning, you're just going to go to your reset point and you're going to check that this is a cleaned version of you. And then from this cleaned version of you, you can then look around and be like, what exactly was going on here? What was going on with that coworker or that, you know, partner of mine or that friend of mine? You are able to go to a cleansed point, because when you're in it and you're getting attacked, you won't be able to see clearly because you can't connect to light. So always make sure once you're fully cleansed, you have a reset point that you can go to so that you can have a clear view of what the heck's going on. What's attacking you? Where is it coming from? Why is it happening? How do you get clear? Because otherwise it's really, really, really difficult to get some clear answers. So one of the other strategies that people I'm finding is being used against people is intuitively we have this knowing. We just have this like claircognizant knowingness of, is this a yes or is this a no? And we can feel it in our bodies. We're like, yes, I know this. This feeling feels like a strong yes for me. I use muscle testing to get my yeses and nos. Other people use pendulums. There's all different strategies that people have to get their clear yes and a clear no. One of the strategies that is being used against us at this point is to flip that yeses and no answer. So when we usually get a clear, like, strong feeling in our heart when we're like, this is a yes, it's actually a no. And you're like, what? So I found that with 2 clients yesterday, that their yeses and nos were flipped. And they were so clear. They were like, yep, it's a strong no. And I'm like, okay, I want you to ask if something has flipped your yeses and nos. And they were like, what? And they looked off to the side for a second and they're like, it has. And I was like, I thought so, because I don't see what you're seeing. So the way you can tell if your yeses and nos have been flipped is when you breathe in, look at your light body. Take the, like, in your third eye, take a little image of yourself, have your little image breathe light into your body. If when it breathes the light should flow towards you, and then as it goes into your body, if it is flipped, yeses and nos, I call it flipped polarity. If it has flipped the polarity, your light will come towards you as you breathe it in, and as it enters your body, it will turn dark. It won't light your body. And then as you breathe out, you will actually breathe out light. And you'll be like, what the heck? So if you breathe in light and it doesn't enter, it just is black, and you breathe out light, you're flipped. And all you say is, flip my yeses and nos the right way, please. And it will flip it back. And you'll breathe in light. And you'll be like, oh, that was so easy. But now you'll get your clear yes and your clear no, and they'll actually mean yes and no. It's just a sneaky move that the sneaky side uses against us. So just be on the lookout for when you're feeling very clear and very strong that, yeah, I got my answer, I know what I'm doing. And then you start down that pathway and you're like, something feels funny right now. Check your polarity, check your yeses and nos, breathe in your light and see if it happens, breathe out your what doesn't serve you and see what happens. So those are important pieces as well to check. Trying to think of other things that I have seen recently where I'm like, that is a sneaky trick. Um, there's a lot of beings that are around that are trying to help and assist us, so that's good. Um, there's a lot of dragons that are coming in. There's a lot of really smart pets that are going to start coming online. People that are like, there's something about my cat or there's something about my dog. They're just so like smart, like in tune with me. They just seem to get me. I have a dog and a cat that are both, they both have a role, a 5D role. My cat showed up here just one day. My kids were like, Mom, there's a cat here. I'm like, don't pet it, leave it, it'll go away. It's a stray, like just let it do its thing. And they're like, Mom, it's not that kind of cat. I was like, well, what kind of cat could it be? And I opened the door to ask, like, come on now. Don't make a big fuss with the cat. It's gonna be leaving. And as soon as I opened the door, the cat shot in the house, and I was like, okay, it's that kind of cat. And it wasn't leaving, and it stayed ever since. And that cat comes in and out all day and all night. It comes in and out of the house. And at first it was annoying to me. I was like, this cat, it like make up your mind, it's either inside or outside. Because it does it all night long too. And that's when I realized, oh, this cat's actually clearing energy. It leaves and brings energy out. It comes and brings energy in. It's just filtering the energy in our house. I was like, that's crazy. And so once I figured that out, I let it in and out as much as it wants to go in and out. I have a teenager, he lets it in and out until about 4 in the morning, and then my husband gets up and he then takes over the role of letting the cat in and out. I have a dog who's incredibly in tune with me. She's had different lives with me as well. And so these pets that we have been sent to us for a very specific reason, and they have a very specific role. So just be like on the lookout for that kind of stuff. Check your pets to see what they're doing because they're working. They're working really hard right now because we're moving into that 2.0, that higher level that I had talked about earlier. Another thing that's really good to protect your house and your space are things like I use Christmas music, which I mean, you don't want to really play Christmas music all year long, but the other equivalent to that is baby lullaby music. There's a bug in my house. So our baby lullaby machine just plays 24/7, whether the baby's going to sleep or not. People that talk with me during the day will say, hey Natalie, I heard lullaby music. It's really soothing. It's in the background. And I'll be like, yeah, that's because nothing likes it. Not like the baby likes it. We don't mind it. For us, it's just background noise. But it seals off our space and prevents things from accessing us that probably shouldn't be accessing us. So I always think of some kind of music that it just kind of, we just play it almost like a frequency in the background. So that's another strategy that you guys can use. Another really good one to use is when you go to bed at nighttime. I've always put something in charge, like to overwatch while I'm sleeping. And it can be anything. It literally can be anything. For me, it was, I had a little, I don't know, I want to say like teddy bear. It was like an ornament or something that was on my nightstand. And I just asked in my 5D version of me, I just stood there and I was like, all right, I'm looking for somebody, like a being that would like to take on the role of making sure nothing crazy happens while I'm sleeping. And then I had a being step forward and they're like, I'll take on that role. And I'm like, so you will act as gatekeeper while I sleep. I explained what the role took, like what they were signing up for. And they were like, yeah, that's me. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want to do. I'm like, okay. So then this little statue thing right here, you're just going to look through the eyes of that all night long. You're just going to make sure that there's nothing funky that happens to me in my room while we're in this space while I'm sleeping. And they're like, okay. Now, these beings also get tired and they don't give up their task easily. They don't say, Natalie, I'm tired. I want another job. Do you have another thing for me to do that's not as hard as this one? Because this one's boring now. They don't say that. They just get really lazy at their job and really bad at it. And then all of a sudden you start getting like dreams that you should not be getting. And you're like, wait, what's going on with the dream? That was a weird dream. What was that? And then you go to your like person that or being that you've put in charge and you'll ask them like, hey, I'm wondering if you are maybe feeling like you want to change positions or if you're tired or, need a little vacation. Because if you are, there's no hard feelings. I can find somebody else. You can like totally like relieve yourself of the position. And they're usually are like, well, no, I think I'm okay for another couple weeks or so. I'm still good. And that's when you're like, no, 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 no. Like you should feel thrilled to have the position and like can't wait for another night. That isn't the right answer. And so at that point, you just let them know that it's okay. Somebody else has, it has the role. That it's fine. They don't have to feel like they have to do anything, because they will. They'll stay and they'll stay in the role, and it's like long past their due date to get out of that position. So always do a check of your guides and ask them if they're okay. And if anybody wants to change roles, if they feel tired, if they need to like switch it up, go into a different thing, and they are usually pretty good at being able to be, to be able to like switch it out. So that I think is an important one when you start realizing things are going wonky. Maybe one of my guides needs to come forward because they actually want a different job. Do you guys have questions or anything about this? Is it relevant or kind of like feeling like it's resonating with you guys? Are you guys, have you guys noticed any sorts of, I don't know if it's like attacks, but need for some of these strategies? Everybody's super quiet. Oh, yes. Okay, good. I'm not just, thank you for being brave and saying yes for sure. Yeah, because right now is a very, very heightened time, and it's heightened because we are in a transition. So what I had seen is that the timeline we're on right now has been breached, and the the breach came in when Hawaii's fire happened. That's when we had it be breached. Okay, good. I'm just reading the comments. And so once that got breached, it allowed us to have a new timeline be developed for us, but we can't access it because we as a collective need to learn some of these things. And we've typically been a collective that has stayed in the light. Like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to stay connected to the light and do what's good and don't talk about bad things and just focus on the positive stuff. But the lessons that we need now are actually going to be taught to us by things that we are going to go through that aren't so good. And so, it's crappy. And so, but we have to talk about it. We have to be much more prepared, and we have to be together in it, and we have to like just be able to share. And that's exactly what we haven't been doing. And that's why it's important to do that now. It's all lessons in why, in discernment, lessons in how do you tell if something's good for you, positive for you, like, or like, how do you tell if something is a trick? How do you tell if that's false? That doesn't make sense. We have missed that. There is so much false light, and it is really difficult to tell the difference between false light. The thing that I do when I'm not sure if it's false light is I ask it to stand in front of the sun. Every time I meet a new being and I'm like, never met this one before. Is this actually a real one, or is this a pretend one pretending to be nice? I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up the sun, and the sun has this strong, very vibrant glow to it. And then I'm going to tell the being, sure, you can interact with me. Just come do it in front of the sun. And if they're like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to stand over here. Can you hear me if I stand over here? I'll be like, no. move out of the way. You're false light. This is not accurate. Whatever you're about to tell me is not good. Um, False beings will never stand in front of the sun. I don't know why, they just don't. The other thing they won't ever do is I I will, if they do it, but they're like, so say I get a being and I'm like, okay, come stand in front of the sun, and they're like, mm-hmm, and they do, but they're kind of hesitant, and I'm not sure. I'll say, okay, so maybe you might have considered that as a pass, but I'm gonna go ahead and run another test. So my second test that I'll do is I'll pull up a being that is like my go-to, has been with me from the beginning of time. I'll pull up one of my beings that I know and trust, and I'll say, okay, you guys just go ahead and give each other a little hug. And they'll be like, my guide that is used to me will know, like, okay, and they'll be like all open arms, like, come hug me. And the other one's like, oh, it's hilarious to see. And so yeah, the you really have to get used to doing some of the checks to make sure there is no false light, because there is a ton of that is going around, and they don't know. So I mean, if I don't do these checks, I don't know that I'm telling you crazy stuff, because, and we don't know to do these checks because we've never had to do these checks. We've always relied on universal laws, like I'm divinely protected and I'm not going to have anything bad happen to me because I don't focus on negative things and I raise my vibration, and now that I have good vibration, I am immune to bad shit. No, you're not. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. I wish it did, but the lessons that we're about to embark on to get to the new higher timeline we have to go through what we're about to go through in order to get the lessons. You need duality. You need to have both in order to be able to know what neutrality is. How do you say, oh, I'm neutral, I'm going to stand in just being neutral in the middle? How, when you've never experienced anything bad? You've never even talked about bad stuff, because if you talk about bad stuff, it will happen to you. Like, this is just crazy. I went on a whole rant about it today because I was like, this is crazy. We need it. We can talk about bad stuff as long as we don't focus on it and stay there and go down with it, where bad stuff is like talking about a coworker and ruminating, and then going to the next coworker to talk about that and ruminating. That is staying in a low vibration. What we want to do is we want to, yes, this happened. This is what I did because it happened. I went and checked myself. I cleaned myself. I looked through myself. I examined my systems, lit myself back up, rewound the situation, looked at when that coworker walked into my office, looked to see if she was lit, realized she wasn't lit, realized, there isn't anything that I can do. All I need to do is keep myself in the light and know that she was acting crazy because she wasn't lit. End of. Source is going to give her her lessons. Source gave you your lessons, and off you guys go. It's easy. It's like a 10-minute process. We want to make it into a 5-day process and 14 coworkers later. Like, we have to be able to move forward and move through these things, because those high school situations are continuing to repeat because we've never had to go through them in a proper way. We've gone through them it's not my fault, it's your fault. She didn't learn these things. She has problems. That guy over there. Like, we have to take accountability for some of these things and be able to light ourselves and clean ourselves, and then keep our mouth shut and know that we're okay. It's okay. We're good. It's fine. So yeah, it's just important to go through the lessons that we need to go through right now, because we have to drop some of that trauma stuff and the feeling that this was done to us. Take some accountability for it. Find our own triggers. Why did that trigger you? I don't know. I was pissed off. Okay, I know you were pissed off, but why did it make you mad? What are you actually mad about? Well, she got away with it. She got away with what? Well, she came in here and she said these. Okay, so she's allowed to talk. What are you mad about? I don't know. She the way she said it. Okay. The way she said it was out of line. Okay, cool. So what are you actually upset about? Why does that upset you? It's like that shadow work that goes deeper. Why are you having this come to the surface? And when we go back, we actually find it was either your mom spoke to you in a way with that tone that you didn't like. Okay, so that's old programming. Let's go look at that old programming. Did you feel like you didn't have a voice, that you weren't seen, you weren't heard? Okay, well, that's very different than being mad at your coworker. So, like, the more we remove from ourselves, the less we are able to point at and blame other people for things that they're doing. At this point, I don't care what other people do. Go do them. It's like it doesn't impact you if you've done your work. And like just play that on repeat. It will not impact me if I've done my work. If you are getting in the day, go examine where do you need to do work, because it is way easier to blame Susie and Mary and Johnny and Joe over there for the work they haven't done, and they upset you. And it's like, this came to me when my sister, she's 10 years younger. She said one day, she was like, Natalie, I tell my boyfriend very clearly the things I like and don't like. And Natalie, every day he does the things I don't like. And I am very clear about what I do and don't like all the time. I give him those messages. I don't like it when you do this, this, this. I do like it when you do this, this, and this. She's like, you would think he would do more of the do like things because he loves me and wants me to be happy. And I'm like, do you want to be happy? She's like, yeah, that's why I tell him what to do. And I'm like, wait, you tell him what to do? She's like, well, things that make me happy, he should just do more of them. And I'm like, but aren't you responsible for your happy? And she's like, yeah, I am. But I tell him, and since he loves me and wants to be with me and wants to make me happy, he's going to do those more. And I'm like, it does not work like that. You are responsible for your happy. And if whatever he does or does not do has zero impact on you because you're in charge of it, why are we giving our power away to other people and looking for partners to make us happy? Like, what? What? It feels really funny, but it is so much of the collective is in that space of, I'll be happy when, if this person or that person did this, or when this and this happens, you are happy right here and right now because you're in charge of your happy. If you're not happy, then go examine what it is that you need in order to make yourself happy. And it's like the whole way of being will shift because it doesn't rely on anything outside of you. You own your own power. You don't care what people think because they're not there to make you happy. It's so different once you can shift it. So that changed my sister's relationship. He stopped feeling like she was nagging him. And she stopped feeling like, well, I just need to wait for him to get it finally. And it just made a big difference in their relationship. I'm just going to read through some of the comments and make sure I'm getting everybody's stuff. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Yeah, there's a lot of transitioning right now as well. Transitioning, we did a lot of going through tests. So are you going to take this, or are you going to wait and know that that's not what divine flow and what divine messages are telling you and aligning with? They're actually asking you to wait and go, there's something bigger and better coming. So a lot of people went through these little trials and errors and tests, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they were really like almost baited, like this opportunity looks so good, and then they're like, wait, something feels off, something's not right, and you were supposed to halt, no, 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 this is, I'm getting a clear no for this, and then you wait because now the opportunities of much higher magnitude are actually coming in right around now, and the next couple of weeks they'll start flowing in. Just reading through. It's so beautiful to see all the great words. Yes, you're right. It's triggering to them, but it's not personal. If we can remember that things are not personal, like I trigger a lot of people, and I always feel bad when I trigger them, and I always want to go to a place of sorry. and I want to explain like my part in how it has been either miscommunicated or there's been a misunderstanding. But source always tells me, Natalie, don't just let us do the lesson part. It's okay. And I'm like, but I really upset this person, and they're like, it didn't matter what you were gonna say. You should be gonna be upset, so don't stress about it. Yeah, some of the dark stuff, it definitely communicating about it in a different way so that um, there's so much lessons that we can learn in that, in some of this darker stuff. So many great, amazing things. We just have to remember how to have that discernment. Mm-hmm. So awesome. So it looks like you guys are like resonating with the different strategies and stuff. There's more in the free course. There's also an additional piece that you guys can purchase because I did some light language clearing as well in it to help with people that are, are either time crunched or they just can't see the visuals to go through the course. There's 5 different modules in it. I don't know how long it is. I should have looked at the time. Each little video is broken down into like 3 or to 5 minutes so that people can get through it pretty quickly. The light language section is, I think, 5 videos. It covers detoxing as well. So often we detox our 3D, like we'll take stuff, we'll take a different regimen to help cleanse and decalcify our pineal gland, but it also has to be done on the 5D side. So people will take the 3D medicine or whatever, and then they'll be like, I feel like the effects of detoxing, but they don't realize they need to do that 5D side as well. And it logically, it makes sense. Like messages go from the 3D to the 5D, and then they go from the 5D back to the 3D. They have to go both ways. They have to cross 2 thresholds here. So if you're just doing the 3D, you're expecting 5D messages to come through and hit your 3D. Okay, cool. So when are you detoxing your 5D? So that is really important. And I often will see people's come in and tell me like they've done their 3D one, but their 5D, when I go through and do like a scan of their body, their 5D pineal gland looks like it came off the barbecue, like it's charcoal. Like it's just hard and crisp. And I'm like, what the hell? They're like, yeah, I can't see anything still, but I've done my 3D detox. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That like I feel badly for them. Yeah, it's too bad. But once they do session and we get like it all sorted out, then it's much better. Everybody, they get their messages back and forth on both sides, so it's easier. Then what else? Let's see what else I wanted to share. They're like, there is something else. I'm like, okay, well, what? There's something about Stonehenge that's happening as well. So I've been seeing a lot of things, a lot of activations, and a lot of energy that has been going towards Stonehenge and that whole Avalon time frame, or that timeline that's there. There was a lot. They were having me work quite a bit before this whole attack stuff. They were having me work a lot on discovering who the incarnations were for like King Arthur and King Arthur's son. And yeah, I had no idea during that timeline. I was actually King Arthur's son, and I had killed King Arthur. And it was really bizarre. Like the whole time, the whole life was really bizarre. And I was like, why are they showing me this stuff? Like, what's the deal with this? But they pulled me off it to actually go into this like attack thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's quite interesting. I'm hoping that it comes back up again because a lot of my clients are going there for activations and to spread energy and to talk to the dragons and stuff. But I'm like, man, it would be really nice to like dig into it a little deeper. And they're like, yeah, just wait on that. And we're going to actually put you on discovering these archangels and the second level of archangels. and like the archangel lineage. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Who am I to say where I'm going? They just tell me what I'm doing and where I'm going next. Uh, so let me see. I don't know what YOSOY means. Um, hmm. Oops. So my finger, this little thing comes off next week, I'm hoping. So I had my boat, I was in a boat with my family, and it just started veering from side to side like crazy all of a sudden and almost capsized. And so I ended up with the tip of my finger broke, but it's almost all healed and should be coming off at the end of the week. You see a lot of dreams, but you forget them. So the dreams, they'll often lift your memories if you're working. So the dreams right now, there's a lot of work that is going into people, especially around the heart space. And yeah, the heart space right now is getting a lot of upgrades and a lot of work done to it. A lot of the time when work is being done, they'll have you stay awake or want you to stay awake during it. So they'll have you go into like a lucid dream. And in order to keep you sort of lucid, they'll have some kind of catastrophe happening. I had one of them the other day. They're never nice. The one that they gave me was my husband purchased a new, like an old time vintage car, and he was taking us for a test drive, and we were on our way on this test drive, and he went around a bend, like an S bend, and he was like, did you like those fancy maneuvers? And I was like, what? And I look, and there's no steering wheel in the car. It's just these two wires, and you tap the wires depending on what way you want to go. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're driving it with these two wires? And he's like, yeah, thinking he's all manly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the heck? And so he started speeding up because there was more bends, and he realized you had to tap like a lot less uh, if you could go faster. And so like we ended up going around these crazy spirals and all over the place, and I was like scared to death that he was going to crash it with all the kids in the car. And yeah, then I woke up, and then I was like, oh my gosh, you guys were working on me, weren't you? And they were like, maybe. And I was like, oh. Because I had figured out my other dreams. My other dreams were usually they would just make me drive all night. They're like, they know I won't fall asleep if I'm driving. So they would just put me in a car, and they'd have me drive all over the place in my car looking at different things, or like give me like a delivery truck, and they'll be like, you have to deliver all these packages before you can go home. And I'd be like delivering them all over all night. And so they tried that one again, and I was like, damn it, I know you guys are working on me. Stop. I went out of the dream. And so they were like able to then be like, okay guys, she's figured out this. So they increased the ante, and now they give me these crazy other dreams, and I wish I would have not let them know what was going on, because these ones are a little bit more intense. So if you're having intense dreams, this is part of that. Yeah, it's crazy. I've also heard that people right now are having a difficult time with emotions, lots of crying. So definitely understand that feeling as well. It's definitely, you're not solo in that. Yours are about school. Carrie. Yes. I feel like I don't cry. I usually just get super needy. The feeling that my period's about to start is usually the feeling that I get, like the emotion that comes with it. Like I just want to stay by my husband, and he's like, do you need something? And I'm like, yeah, to be close to you. And he's like, okay, because it's not very, like, it's pretty rare that I'm just following him around being like, I don't need you to touch me or anything. I just want to be close to you. And he's like, this is weird, but okay. So yeah, that's also yeah. The my emotional usually looks like just kind of needy. But yeah, I feel like that's happening right across the board right now. Lots of heart space upgrades. Um, and I feel like that expansion is partly just for us to be able to go into where we're going. Like, not necessarily for the timeline, the higher timeline, but to embody more of what we need, more of that understanding, more of that caring about others, more of that, just more of that everything. Expanding of the heart will bring in more of that everything. So um, yeah, that I think is a big one. um, think about other things too. I'm like, is there anything else? They're like, no, I think that covers everything. um, yeah, just to know that it's okay to talk about these things, and that I want to normalize the fact that yes, attacks happen. Yes, it's okay for us to feel off. Yes, it's okay for us to talk about it. We should be talking about it. We should not be judging somebody when they're like, I was attacked. Okay, good. Raise your vibration and like stop ruminating on the crazy stuff and you'll actually be better. And you're like, no, that's not it. You will not actually be better. You can now at least give them the course and they can go through the steps. The other forms of attacks are this one's actually an interesting one. It's when you wake up and somebody you trust messages you and says, I saw that there's an open portal and there's a dark thing near you. And you're like, what? And you check and you're like, oh, I found it. There is a dark thing near me and there is an open portal in me. No, there wasn't until you checked and invited the damn thing in. Now there is, and now you need to clear it. And the more you clear it, the more of them appear. And you're like constantly like clearing, and you're like, am I clear now? I think I see one over there. Ah, and you clear that one. And then there's three more over there. Like, it's a merry-go-round, and it's like, how do I get off? How do I get off? Well, the person that originally saw it did actually see something, but it was a false, like a false thing. And they were trying to do you a favor and tell you about it. So it's like this trickery that comes in through another being. Somebody once told me the best way to know whether you are having an attack or if something is happening to you is to feel it in your body. You will feel the disconnect. You will feel something is happening. I either have a weakness that I feel like I feel tired. Something is happening. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something not right. And when you feel that, then you know to look. If you wake up in the morning and somebody's in your inbox and they're like, Natalie, I saw the whatever they think, whatever they saw, because they actually do see it and they are trying to be genuinely good and kind Samaritans. But the second they tell you and the second you check, you're screwed. That's it. They have done their thing. I will never tell anybody that, hey, you have a blah, 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 unless they ask me. If they ask me, Natalie, will you check me? Or I will ask them, would you like me to check you? But I will never come out and say, blah, 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 blah. Even if I see it, I will not say blah, 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 blah. If I see it, sometimes my light language will just trigger and it will remove it, and that'll be the end of it. And I don't tell them that I removed something because I'm like, I don't know, it just happened. Like I don't need to stress the person out. I just, just did it. It just happened. Sorry if you didn't want me to remove that crazy thing, but I did. So that's just another thing to just know, is to not worry when people say that they see something on you or saw something by you. You can disregard it because it's just another form of a different type of attack. The more you clean those things, the more they actually open up and the more they bring whatever it is into your field. So if someone says that, just go through and cleanse. Just go through and set your fields up. You don't need to like look for it. Just shield it and close it and move on and don't think about it again. That's the end of that. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Those ones are like such crappy ones. The other ones are where they use your fears against you. So say you start a new job and you already have this like little bit of a like, I wouldn't say fear, but it's a little bit of a like, I'm gonna be the new person. I have a lot to learn. Like I'm gonna have to make like everybody's already got their buddies and they're buddied up, and I'm gonna have to be the new person to come in and sit with them and make friends with them and like be in with them. um, if you have, and that's totally normal. I would expect that. But the second that you start to feel like you can't shut that off, that's when you're like, something, these aren't my thoughts. These are actually being amplified. Somebody has taken the dial and they've like turned it way up, and I can't make it stop or like turn it back down. That's when you're realizing I'm like trying to focus on positive things. I'm like trying to steer over here, and my car just keeps pulling me this way. Like something's wrong. These aren't mine. That's when you can go in and have a look and go through the steps that are in the free course, because that will help bring your thoughts back to just being your thoughts instead of being influenced by something else. Because the second you start believing the thoughts, the narrative, the more they dig in, and the lower you be, it's because the lower your vibration goes and the more they dig in. Same with the strategy of somebody telling you that they saw something on you. It immediately like lowers your confidence level, because you're feeling pretty confident, like I'm clear, I'm shielded, everything's good, everything's in check. And then you're like, how did something get in? Wait, what's going on? Somebody else now sees it? Like, who else is going to see this? This is awful. And you just go lower and lower. You start clearing and you can't get rid of it. You're like, this is not good. Never going to be rid of it. I need help. But that's when the lower you will go in that, the vibration, and the easier it is for them to bring more things in, and then it's consumed. It's quick. It's a downward spiral from there. So, I mean, hopefully that helps with those other strategies too that I had not mentioned at the beginning. So I'm just going to read some of the comments as well. Oh, you were listening to light language and you heard that. Okay. Yeah, you really have to discern who you listen to. I cannot scroll through TikTok. I remembered scrolling through TikTok once, and there was a lady that was on there, and um, her eyes and her face just immediately like grabbed my attention and like sucked me in, and then she started light languaging, and I was like, ah, I can't, like, this is not good, but I can't make it stop. It was already too late once I had seen her and she started, and I was like, man, this stuff is so strong sometimes. And it's really tough. And then I spent a little while after that clearing and cleansing, because and I'm sure she had no idea that she was transmitting something that's like, oftentimes, like, that's the thing. That's why it's so important to do our daily hygiene, and to do some of this stuff, is because it's not something we talk about, but a lot of that stuff is already built in. People will be like, I want gifts, I want to be, ascending and using my gifts, but they don't talk about the responsibility that you have that goes with those gifts. They think, oh, okay, gifts are gifts, and we have universal laws that protect us, and everything is great and gravy, and we're all good. But there is a lot of responsibility that goes with that as well. And it talks about it in the free course, of like some of those responsibilities and how we can, take those pieces on. It's a little bit like when you're a kid, you're protected because you're a kid. Like you live on your parents' house, you don't have as much stress or worries, but you really, really can't wait to be an adult where you can like have your own money and come and go when you want, and like have your gifts activated. So it's that everybody kind of wants that middle where they don't have to pay for things, but they do have the freedoms and liberties of being an adult. And that's where people want that sweet spot, is what people are like, I just want my gifts activated. We don't talk a lot about the responsibilities that go with having them activated. There's a lot of responsibilities that go with that. Things like making sure you properly cleanse. We don't talk about making sure we properly cleanse because we don't talk about bad stuff, because we don't talk about bad things happening to people. Like, so if we don't talk about the bad things happening, then we don't understand the importance of having to cleanse. So it's a responsibility that comes with that, and it is making sure that you take your Epsom salt baths, that you breathe in your crystalline every day, and you're keeping your inner light bodies lit. Some people don't know that they have to do that. Some people don't know they have to go through their house and pick up their house and cleanse through all of the pieces of their home. They have to go through and they have to check when their animals are acting strange. It's yeah, they just have to find what works. So, I mean, yeah. Do you guys have questions? You want to learn light language? Oh, yes. If you're clear and you're cleansed, then you won't have um, those things coming through. So, a light language is such a pure and heart centered um, thing. So there's different types of light language. Um, they're laughing. I can feel my light language. So the light language that I have is my own DNA activated light language that comes out when I'm close to energy. It will just trigger and just start. And it is mostly Arcturian sounding. Then I have like the healing of the Arcturian, like it's the body scan. And when I get to whatever it is, I like remove whatever and add new things. I have the frequency reset, which is like transmitting a tone, a deep tone at something to reset its frequency. Um, then I speak all the beings. So if there's like a blue avian around, and that's speaking to me. If there's like somebody from Lemuria coming in and they're speaking, I will speak whatever they're speaking, which is so cool. And I wanted to add that actually to the course because some people don't know the different languages and how they all sound. One of my favorite ones is the Hydra language. Um, the Hydra language that I speak is it sounds like a snake, and it is because it wants to speak. It's so cool because it literally just sounds like a snake. Um, um, so you're talking about how do you find out what our light language is? Um, the light language changes depending on the task you're doing. At least that's how mine is. So when you see me in meditations, it will take on the language of whatever being is there. But my core language will always be Arcturian. It is always like that's my DNA structured one is very much Arcturian, and it sometimes sounds a little bit Egyptian-y as well, but I think it's still mostly Arcturian. And I think it likely your DNA activated one will be like whatever your first incarnation is. And then depending on what other missions I'm working. So if I'm working a mission and it requires like something from my angel incarnation, I can tell it's like it's got angel stuff in there. If it requires something where I'm like in my motherly, like somebody needs to be told to stand up and stand up straight and walk properly, they need somebody with a little bit more authority in there, then I will also have a very specific language that comes out for that as well. So it definitely depends what task I'm doing. And there's my language will translate word for word as well. So this is unique for me. It doesn't happen for everybody. That my language, like when I talk to my kids, it could be light language or it can be English. For them, it doesn't really matter. And because I live in a like very white community, I speak like both languages to them publicly, and people just assume I'm speaking, I don't know, Arabic or something. I have no idea what they think, but they just look at me and be like, oh yeah, she's not from here. So they just accept that, oh yeah, she's speaking some other language to her kids. That's normal. My kids, they don't seem to mind either way. My son, my 7-year-old, actually asked me, why do you do so much sign language, Mom? And I was like, sign language. He's like, you're always moving your hands, and I'm like always doing my hand movements. Like they just, it's just part of what happens. And I was like, oh, that sign language. Oh yeah, I'm not really quite sure. So we just moved on. But yeah, my youngest guy, who is 2, he gets a kick out of me speaking light language. He still understands his light language, but he finds it very funny that I'm speaking it. And he'll laugh, and he will know different things that would trigger my light language. So he will do the certain things to trigger it to get me to say the funny things. So he's a big old ham. Yeah, he's funny. Yeah, so for me, it totally depends. Things that trigger my light language are harder because I don't have a lot of control over it because it just gets triggered. That stuff can be at any time, especially if there's something of a warning that needs to come out for somebody, or if it's animated, if it's very like passionate, then I'll be on a chat with somebody and they'll say, and I think I'm supposed to go for dinner tomorrow, and I'll be and I'll be like, what's the deal? Like, they don't want you to go for dinner with that. Whoever you were supposed to go with dinner with, that they're not happy about that. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, don't ask me why. It just happens. So, oh, your kid copies you. That's funny. Yeah, mine just does its own thing. I don't tend to stop it. It just does its thing. But there are definitely favorites of mine that come out. With Hydra being one of them. And there's a clicking that comes out sometimes too, and that one's always really cool. Let me see if I can find it. It's that. And that one, I'm always like, what is that? There's another one. I called it the ancient click language, and it's like this. It's one of the languages that was one of my very first ones that I learned. And I had to like Google it. I had no idea it was light language. I had to Google it to be like, what is clicking? What is all this clicking that's happening with my tongue? This is crazy. Yeah, they're all different. The blue avian one is really cool too, because it straight up just sounds like a bird. There's the Lyrian one too. The Lyrian one is very cat. It's like just wants to come out. It's a lot of purring and just very cat, very happy cat usually. You had some clicking too that sounded very similar. Yeah, there are so many different types of light language. Honestly, there's so many different ones. And I've also, some of the people, yes, it happened very suddenly. I was laying in my bed one morning and a client, because at the time I was just doing like emotion code stuff and my light language wasn't activated. And I was working with a client and I could see past lives. So I started that work by having clients come in to clear their nervous system in their present life. And so, I mean, what could go wrong? But it was very Dolores Cannon. It was very like, I was started in this life clearing their nervous systems, and all of a sudden I found one that did not go in this life. It was like a past life one. And I was like, show me where this originated from then. And I saw like the whole movie start playing of like the past life that she lived where this took place. And I was like, okay. So I cleared it and had it walk through the steps. And I was like, okay. Well, and eventually, after I did so many clients, I had like one client come back and she's like, Natalie, I had this really, really strange thing happen to me this morning. I was told to record this message for you. And I was like, all right, it was whatever. So I'm listening to the message and it sounds and looks, because she showed me the she was recording her face, and she wasn't saying anything. She was just doing this. I was like, what in the heck is she doing? I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So I'm like watching her and I'm like, what is she doing? And then all of a sudden there was like this pressure in my head and this loud pop. And I was like, what the heck was that? Like it like sounded like an egg popped. Like the shell of an egg popped was what, and it felt like that too. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And then from that point, my face did the same thing. It would just twitch like this. So I would get close to things and they would be like, I'm like, what is going on? And I soon learned that that meant yes, and this meant no. And so I was like, okay, we got a clear yes and a clear no for things. I'm like, okay. Like it was just so bizarre. And then as time went on, I started having like it was pretty much what she was doing, like this whole all over the place. And it was random, it would just start happening. Um and so I got facial twitches basically was my first thing that started. And then my light language came in clicking was next. That it just would go like this and then and you'd be like, what is happening? I still had never met anybody in the community, still had no idea about light language, still didn't have a clue what the heck was happening. I just knew every once in a while, I thought I was developing Tourette's. Like I knew it was something spiritual, but it felt like a lot like I was developing Tourette's. And then, yeah, after that, I think I started meeting people in the community. And that's when I was like, I think this is light language. And then from there, I started getting more and more of my languages come in. And the more of my DNA strands that were activated, the more like the light language sounds like the light language that we know it to be now. But it was a process. There was some, and each time I had a new embodiment, I would get more like different languages. So I met this really cool being. His name is Guan. And so there's like the 12 universes, like the archangel creator universes, and then above them there's another layer, and the different layers go up. Well, eventually I went up to a layer that was like only 4 beings that were there, and they were collective consciousness. And this being that looked like part fish and part, I don't even know what else, I don't know what else he was, but he was like this fish scaly looking dude. He was a guy. Looked nothing like a guy. He was just a male species of something. And when I asked him like who he was, he said his name was Guan, and he was a collective consciousness, and that there's 3 others of them up there, and he's one of them. And I was like, okay, sweet. So like, why are they sending me to come talk to you? And he's like, because I have this really good book of knowledge that you're going to need to like come up here and ask me questions. He's like, this is where you come when you have the readings of like the akashic records. That record has a record that keeps tab of the records. And I was like, okay. So he's like, this is like the records of records. I'm like, okay, whatever it is, like, why am I here? And he's like, you're here because you need this knowledge. And I'm like, okay, cool. What do I need the knowledge for? And he's like, anytime you have a question, you come back and you ask. And I'm like, well, this is going to get old fast. He's like, I'm like, I can just go directly to source and ask the questions. And he's like, yeah, but there's knowledge in this book that you need. And I'm like, okay, awesome. So I come back and ask you these questions. Like, how does this work? This seems like I don't get it. And he's like, never mind. I'm just going to add this to your light language. I'm like, okay. How? Like, you're going to give me the knowledge and then I'm going to speak it out my mouth? And he's like, well, not exactly like that. You'll see. And I'm like, oh, okay. And from then on, I had this new part to my light language. And every time I say that, like certain syllable, I'm like, oh, this is from the book of knowledge that he put, that Guan put there. Like, people must think I'm crazy, but I'm like, yeah, this directly came from that book of knowledge. I don't have a clue what is in that book. I didn't read it. I don't go back and ask him for like the questions. He simply just said, the knowledge is going to come out of your mouth, and it comes out of your mouth in the form of this syllable when you say it. It just communicates to other people what that knowledge is. I'm like, okay, sure. So yeah, it totally just depends. Um, yeah, the syllable is kyu 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 kyu. When it does that, that's from that book from Guan. So anything that's kya 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 is him. So some people will say like, "Can you translate your stuff?" And it's like, yes, it does translate. I always can tell when my transmission is about to end because I start giving like words of endearment to whoever is transmitting the transmission to me. It's usually direct from source, and I thank her and I call her my ete, mukotaya kamayakai. And so I start saying like basically thank you for the transmission, my love or my dear or whatever. And if you listen to as I get close to ends of transmission, you'll start hearing that those phrases come out. So I'm just going to go back and read some of this stuff as well so I can answer some of the questions. Yeah, so sometimes it does sound like Latin. So when Altia does hers, she does a lot of R rolling, and so her R rolling always reminds me of like some of that Latin type of stuff. But everybody has very unique and very different light language. People that work with me will know like right away that that's Natalie. That's her language. Well, so good. I'm glad you guys are loving it. And sure do shine. She had to leave, but it was good that you were able to connect and that you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining. So yeah, I think I'm gonna head out too and get some sleep and balance things out a little bit. But I'm glad. I had no idea why I was being asked to come and join. I never really get a clear message from like as to what it is they want me to do. I just know I just follow whatever they say. I was part of me was like, "Are you sure it's late? I think I'm gonna go to bed." They're like, "Okay, you do whatever you choose to do then." And I was like, "Oh no, 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 no! I don't want another broken finger. I think I'm just gonna do the live and hang out with some people and see how it goes." That your lips can't keep up. Yes. Sound like an owl and you do a lot of hooing. That sounds very blue avian. That yes, very very blue avian. If it's hooing and it's like making that hoo hoo sound, then yeah, that's some kind of dialect of bird. So those are always fun ones to have. All right, guys. Well, thanks very much. Yes, check out the course, natalienadine.com/free course, and that'll get you over to being able to do those strategies and cleansing and clearing and just more of me doing my thing. So anyways, thanks, guys, for hanging out. Take care. Bye.